Alrighty, now it's time for the news, and I hear some horses gathering in the courtyard. Clippity-clop, clippity-clop. Hippity-hop went Peter Rabbit, and here's Stuart.
Wow. Victorian Mental Health Minister Mary Wooldridge has announced a $4.5 million package for LGBT. See, I told you I'd screw it up straight away. LGBTI groups, including the Zoe Bell Gender Centre, which received funding for a youth suicide prevention project to be jointly overseen by ZBGC and Transgender Victoria. Danny Wright of the National LGBTI Health Alliance hopes it's a sign of the times that governments are now making LGBTI mental health a funding priority. We know sex and gender diverse people experience much higher levels of depression than the majority of Australians, said Danny. A US study found 32% of transgendered respondents had attempted suicide. Australia's Trans Nation survey of 2006 reported similar findings. Also needed, says Wright, is research into how intersex people cope with medical and surgical interventions they often undergo as children and sometimes adults. And of course, access to properly trained GPs, psychotherapists and endocrinologists, which is still difficult in many states. Difficult to say in many states as well.
That's
many
interesting.
States like state of inebriation.
I like that state. Okay, Walt Heyer, an expert on gender confusion from Anaheim. Walt Heyer, yes. An expert on gender confusion from Anaheim, CA, will address a rally in Martin Place on Saturday morning. Huh?
California, CA means California.
Oh, well, Well, I'm reading what's written. That's what you say every week. What, so MD, I've got to say managing director in the next news story.
No, you have to say Maryland.
Medical doctor.
Oh, will address a rally in Martin Place on Saturday morning, organised by Stand for Marriage, which didn't tell the Queernoys what they stand for. But on Queensland passing the Homosexual Civil Unions Bill, Walt is sad because it's part of the legislative strategy to gain homosexual marriage. The death to marriage by 1,000 cuts worked well in Washington, warns Wally. But as with my own gender reassignment surgery, it will fail and lead to increased level of gender confusion. Gender does matter, continued the committed Christian. Heyer's counsellors have diagnosed dissociative identity disorder, with one of the identities being a woman. Treatment is reported to have eliminated the false identities, but not his notion that marriage protects children's biological birthright to a mother and father. We here at the Queernoys, don't know how it could do that, because every child has a biological mother and father, whether they like it or not. Wally wants to pimp a book while he's over, and Paper Genders was released in Martin Place on Wednesday. Let's hope they round it up in time for the rally.
Lieutenant Commander of the Royal Australian Navy is facing a military tribunal accused of sexually harassing a sailor under his care. He is also charged with attempting to destroy his naval-issue computer by throwing it in the rubbish. Was said to have begun the indecent acts whilst their ship, which cannot be named for legal reasons, was sailing from WA to Sydney. The court heard that ordered the woman to take off her pants, then pulled her underpants down to the knee. When the ship got to Sydney, he allegedly told her to pull them down again and then put her on his lap and spanked her naked buttocks with an open hand. He is said to have committed another 6 acts in WA and on the ship. He pled guilty to 1 laptop charge, but not the others.
Can I just make one point of note? The guy threw it in the rubbish, his computer, right? You're on a boat. Wouldn't you chuck it in the water? The whole reason he got caught is they found it in the rubbish.
The battery acid leaks.
Who cares about stupid fish?
The slugs. Remember what happened?
Here we go.
When they painted those boats in
what
Western
happened?
Australia, all the female snails grew penises on their heads.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that story.
Oh.
Don't you remember that?
What was in the paint?
It was
penis enhancer.
Something.
I know, penis on head cream or something. Anyway, right. Telephone service provider One Mobile. Oh, Stephen's fallen apart. One Mobile is annoying child advocacy groups with its sleazy brands like the Cherry Popper Starter Kit, which advises teenagers to flip around and get it on. Spokeswoman Melinda Lazilski of Collective Shout, which acts against excessive objectification and sexualisation in the media, said it's unfortunate that a company uses this kind of language to sell phones. Is it really suitable for a young market? She asked the Queernoys. But One Mobile managing director, Zach Swindles, said the names reflect how young people talk to each other and were developed after extensive market research. Cherry popper is a common term to describe anything for the first time, he said. The Australian Association of National Advertisers has put out a new ethics code that forbids marketing communications from implying children are sexual beings or that ownership of a product enhances their sexuality.
New Zealand Customs Appeal Judge Paul Barber has accepted the word of an English immigrant that her bong was only used to smoke apple or strawberry flavoured tobacco whilst drinking peppermint tea. She declared the shisha pipe when shipping her belongings in May, but was shocked and embarrassed when Dunedin Customs seized it as a drug utensil. The non-smoker said she had never used it, but it was a gift from a Syrian family and she felt privileged to own it. The judge drew on 30 years judicial experience to assess her as a thoroughly honest and credible witness, but conceded that on the face of it, the shisha had the features of a hash pipe, and Customs was probably correct to seize it. We at the QueerNews believe that a device must have the features of a hash pipe all over it, not just on its face, before it can be reasonably mistaken for a common bong. The woman, who is most likely unrelated to Schapelle Corby, won her appeal and the implement was returned.
I wonder if she had a sister that yelled out, "You animals, leave her alone!" Anyway, and finally, a bird killer from Brigham City, Utah was shot in the arse when his hunting dog stepped on a gun. Box Elder County Sheriff's Deputy Kevin Potter says the man, who cannot be identified without using anal recognition software, was shooting ducks in a boat, but got out to move his decoys. Whilst he was bent over, the faithful companion fired 27 birdshot pellets fairly and squarely at his twice behind him. He can't remember if he had engaged the safety catch on the gun. I don't think he had. But unfortunately, he was wearing waders, so the injuries are minimal and were treated at a nearby hospital.
Brian Setzer is returning to Australia with an all-out assault on the Rockabilly